Tap it.
I've been told it's time to hit it. Another episode with my friend Greg Hood, owner of Mazda of Columbia, Rob Sanders of Fox Sports Radio, 1400 AM, WCOS. My name is Andy. Welcome to another go round of what's good under the hood. What is good under the hood, fellas?
Every darn thing is good under the hood. You guys got some questions for me today that I can answer?
Accent you've got going there?
I don't know. I usually use my Henry McMaster accent because I'm from South Carolina.
There are people that know Governor McMaster
and his wife Peggy
that say before he became governor, he did not have that accent.
Well, he sounds like he came from I'm on the plantation.
Maybe they install it. They install it when you get into the governor's office. Nikki Haley got more Southern when she got in office. She sounded more Southern.
It's a chip.
Yeah, we call my house the country house.
The country house.
I'm Henry McMaster and my wife Peggy.
We should all talk like Henry McMaster for the entire show today.
Gosh, no kidding.
Can we talk about cause?
You can almost.
By the way, I'll do that. I'll say more. I'll say. If any of you don't or listen from out of state, Henry McMaster is our governor. So make sure you understand that. And he does sound like he was a plantation owner. So,
and if you talk to Henry McMaster, he'll say things like I sent someone to get us some tea, and Peggy is going to make us some lunch, and then we'll look out over the grounds and we'll watch the fine folks take care of the grass.
By the way, the governor's mansion here is pretty beautiful. The grounds and the house, pretty nice. I don't get invited there very often, but
well, you're probably not going to get invited at all now.
Oh, well, no. Invited as the help when I went down there and I bartended for a wedding that was there. So I was there as the help. That was kind of cool.
Was it nice?
Well, I mean, I was the help. They were looking down at me like,
you can look around while you're the help, can't
boy. That was the look I was getting.
They put blinders on all the help so they can't see anything in the house. So don't be looking at that.
I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, it's a beautiful place, but yeah, it was unique. I'll give it that. I remember that was the drink of the day there. Everybody was drinking mint juleps. And
have you ever had a mint julep? They're awful.
They're really bad.
They are
nasty. My mint julep's not awful.
No, it is too. Anything you stick a thing of mint in and it tastes, they're awful. I mean, you can't convince me otherwise.
Well,
I think maybe next of what's good under the hood, Rob will be making mint juleps and giving us his recipes.
We'll have the drunken episode, and we'll just drink mint juleps.
Nope, I'm standing on the sidelines. I already told you that. So that's what we're
doing. You can just watch Andy and I drink.
No, I'll watch the shit show go down, so it'll be perfect. Anyway.
And speaking of the government, do you think they're ever going to make us get rid of combustion engines, try to get this thing back on track?
I think they're trying to make us get rid of them. I got to tell you something. Do I want them to? No, I love a motor. I love the sound of a motor. It just, to me, I mean, electric cars are cool. They slam you in the back of the seat and they're really quiet and makes your stereo really good because there's nothing competing with it. But I like a motor. And and to answer the question, I don't see it going away completely because you're going to have some form of hybrid, I think, all the time. You have a certain portion of the population that lives in a very rural area. If you're in the middle of Montana, electric car's not doing you a whole lot of good. So you're going to have something. Either it's, kind of a regen type motor, or it's going to be a true hybrid at the best or worst. I don't know how I said that, but the bottom line is that you got to have something. And then trucks, I don't see them being all electric either. How does a long haul trucker get across the country with a full? Do what?
I was wondering that.
So I did hear something interesting that honestly, hydrogen is not dead, and that the future probably leans more toward that when it's all said and done, because it is something that can power all kinds of things, and it's readily available if they set up the systems and it doesn't pollute. So there's
hydrogen. Is that like I'm going to prove my ignorance. Is this a gas?
Yeah.
Odorless and tasteless?
I've never odored it or tasted it, so I don't know. We'll have some for lunch at the dealership today. So hydrogen for everyone.
Isn't that what they had? Like what they were putting in, like the big, I guess they were like blimps. That's Isn't that what they use, like, the
That was
hydrogen with that? And
the Hindenburg.
yeah.
Oh, the
Was that
humanity.
hydrogen?
I shouldn't say that. It wasn't funny that a lot of people died in that. Yeah, I think it was hydrogen.
God, Greg, you
Well,
heartless
I
individual.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was
no, well,
190
that was
years
gonna be
ago.
my question. If hydrogen is a way to go, I mean, you gotta think of the safety portion of that too. I
I
mean,
think
that's
they've pretty much figured that part out. I think it's more the
oh,
delivery of
okay.
it. I mean, wait, just let's back up for just a second, talk about that. Have you ever lit gasoline on fire?
Yeah.
Well,
Of
you're
course.
driving around with about 20 gallons of it in your car at any given time. I think
Mm,
they're kind
That
of mastering the handling of that because they're crashing into people and they're not rarely are they blowing up.
after all the issues with the Pintos, yeah.
Yeah, I think Ford F-100s, the old ones took a hit from the side. I thought they blew up because the tank was behind the cab. There was all kinds of good ones.
There's a video out there of this guy trying to burn up an ant bed underground, and he poured gasoline into the ant bed hole, lit it up his entire yard, lifted up like 4 feet, and his dog ran away.
Oh man,
The
I have
dog
I
was involved in it too, man. It blew up the whole yard.
I have fire ants. I need to give that a shot.
No, you
That's
don't. If
that's
you do,
pretty,
get it on film.
that sounds pretty
It's
exciting. I've seen the ones where they'll pour hot aluminum or something down the hole and then they pull it out. It looks like a sculpture. They're kind of cool because it goes through the veins of where the ants have been. I think
really
ants are remarkable. I've got a slag driveway, and it's pretty heavy stuff. And I'll go out there sometimes, and on the edge of the driveway, there's a mound. They've dug up the rocks and the stuff that are in. I'm like, how do you do that? Being that little. So basically, what it means, Rob, is you're not the only power lifter on the planet.
they like
Huh.
fingernail and toenail clippings too. I was cutting my toenails outside
Oh
one
no,
day.
no, let's
Little
don't
ants
talk about
carrying
that.
little
No,
pieces of toenail away.
that's disgusting.
Yeah,
All
Now,
right, so
we have to
what?
go back to this now. I mean, you mentioned, that you like the combustible engine, but is Mazda getting to a point where they're gonna have, more EVs, electrical vehicles?
Yes, very much. Probably, and I was reading that today. They've got 5 different models coming out in the next year, and they will be bigger, more electric. We have the MX-30 that's going to California right about now. And I'll say straight up for us, it probably won't work because it's got a very small range. It's a 100-mile range, which isn't enough for where we live. If you live in San Francisco, it's more than enough. You don't have to go very far. You get to where you're going, you get plug them in, and you go on with your life. But
there are a lot of hills, which
yeah,
is
but
going to
that
run the battery down
nah,
quicker.
it doesn't phase them that bad. I mean,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of places to charge your car, and there's a lot of things that they don't contend with that we do here. I mean, it takes me 30 minutes to get to work. I'm going 30 miles, and you go 30 miles, then you go a few more places, and then you can't get home. I don't know. That doesn't really work. But that being said, is that one of the things they're developing, and I may have mentioned it before, but it's a smaller rotary motor. And Mazda was a trendsetter when they did the perfected the Wankel motor. One of its problems, though, as neat of a motor as it was, and only had 3 moving parts, and it was super balanced, and it ran cool, and it revved high, and all kinds of stuff, but they got terrible fuel economy. So, but they're working on a different version of it that gets really good economy, makes a lot of power. And those rotary motors back then, the RX-7, they were only like 1.2 liters. So if you compare that to a Chevy pickup, which is 6.2 liters, and they were making a lot of power out of a very small motor. So they're going to be able to do something, and they're talking about doing it somewhat like they do in trains, where it is a regen motor. It's generating the electricity to charge the battery to get you where you're going electrically. So its fuel consumption is going to be very, very low, and will sit you in that. And that's really what you're going to need. If you're going to have hybrid technology, you're going to have something that is not thirsty and that can charge the car to get you where you need to be to where you can fully charge it again.
Maybe a question we didn't plan on asking, but I'm curious. You may have an answer, maybe not. What is the point of the rotary engine? It just goes the opposite way. Does that
No,
change
not
the
at
whole
all.
dynamic?
No,
Really?
it doesn't go the opposite way. A rotary has a shaft that runs through the middle of it and a rotor, and there's a couple combustion chambers, and it kind of turns doesn't turn in a round way. It kind of works its way as it turns through that cavity. It's kind of like a figure eight on the inside of, I guess, is the best way to put it. But the shaft in the middle stays the same. And so when you've got a piston engine, they're going up and down with the crankshaft in the bottom, and they can get out of balance because you got explosion, explosion, explosion as it's coming.
Okay.
And a rotary motor spins in a way that it doesn't need much. There's a spark plug here and a spark plug here, and I think one down here. I could be a little wrong, but I'm still generally correct. And as the rotor turns, it makes its compression cycle combustion, and then it moves the rotor onto the other part. And so, but what's happening in the middle
Ah,
is it's staying perfectly straight. So that portion is in balance, and that balance is what's important because that motor, I mean, I think they redlined it, I don't know, 8 or 9,000 RPM, where a normal motor's somewhere around 5 to 6. And it could go a whole lot more. I mean, guys used to just wind them up. And I don't, did I tell you the story about the guy that had the rotary car that wanted to race my buddy?
no.
All right. So
Yeah.
this is years ago. My buddy had a 260Z. There was 240Z, there was 260Z, and there was 280Z, my friend Wayne. And we were sitting at a signal in his car. He had a really nice Z, and a Mazda RX-3 wagon pulled up next to us, and they had this fake wood grain side stuff, and the car was a beater, and the wood grains peeling off the side of it. And I can hear him over there, the guy in the car, "Wham, bop, 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 bop," and they popped. If you had crappy exhaust on them, that's the way they did it. And "Wham, bop, bop, bop," and Wayne goes, "What is that guy doing?" I go, "I think he wants to race you." And I said, "But don't." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Just don't." And he did. And the old Wankel engine in the RX-3 wagon with the wood grain sides whipped our ass. It was
It's
just,
humbling, isn't it?
I said, don't. It was just one of them kind of things. And who knows what he had done to the motor underneath it, bigger carburetor or whatever, but he knew what he was doing. He had his little sleeper there. So, they made a pretty neat motor. But I think the thing that killed them was the fact that they were just terrible on gas. And I don't know why. For the life of me, I don't understand. They made that kind of power in that small of a space, but they were really thirsty. And I think that, when they don't meet cafe ratings for the manufacturer and stuff, then they'll move on to something else. But they haven't hung their hat or hung it up. They have continued with the development of that motor. And I think the thing about Mazda that makes them so unique is that they're really super creative, and it's why they're sharing a plant in Alabama, where one of the next Mazda, the CX-50, I think, is coming from. And they share it with Toyota because they brought manufacturing skills to the party that Toyota didn't have. And because they just so think out of the box, how they design stuff, how it works, the efficiency of what they do is far superior to most of the manufacturers that are out there because they care about it.
Yeah.
Did I stump the panel with that?
No,
You
I
did.
I'm learning, like, you
Quiet.
see, the problem now is that, I mentioned when the show from a couple weeks ago that I was got to fight you. Now I'm about to fight you again because I'm gonna go into the Google wormhole of trying to figure out rotary engines and everything else. So, thanks for keeping me
Well,
up till 2 o'clock in the morning, Greg. I
do you know
appreciate
what? I'm here for you, Rob, and I think that you should learn about rotary engines.
it.
But no, and they were called a Wankel because the guy that developed them was named Wankel.
Oh, I
And
was about to say, I thought you were just throwing that off to try to see if we would ask you about Wankels. Like, they're
And I
really
almost
called
did.
Wankels?
they are a
I mean,
Wankel motor. That was what they're called. I mean, a lot of times the guys do these motors and they'll hang their name on them. Cosworth is one, that that may have been his name, but there are names that go with particular motors. And that happened to be what rotary was called, was a Wankel engine. So there you
if I got
go.
to name an engine, I'd come up with something
They
creative
actually
like a
so
Wankel.
and I can't remember the designation. Mazda also toyed with a motor called a Miller cycle engine. And I do not remember how that engine worked, but I knew it was different. I know that our Sky Active technology in our motors now is different. They darn near don't need a spark plug, even though they have them to ignite and have combustion. They're bordering on the edge of a diesel, but it makes them efficient, powerful, and efficient. And so they have all kinds of neat stuff that they've ventured into that a lot of guys wouldn't go into. A lot of manufacturers wouldn't dabble in.
One final question before we get out of here. This episode of the podcast known as What's Good Under the Hood. What do you think that's going to be the next big thing for cars next year?
Mazda of Columbia, of course.
Amen. Because you
That
have a new
is
building being built right
That
now.
will be the next big thing. We'll have cars. That will be a start. We'll have
Yeah.
a new building. That will be second. And we're going to just offer terrific service because, as I said to you last week when we were doing a commercial, our goal, we have really, as collectively decided, We want to be the best damn car dealership out there, period. So we're working toward it. And I mean, you know what? That's a lot of effort that goes into that. They're trying to make sure that you don't irritate somebody. And that's hard to do too, because people come in at different times of the day where they're in a bad mood, good mood, whatever. And we have to contend with all that and what their feelings are about what happened in that transaction. So, but somebody in this country is number one. It's not us, but I got to have something to shoot for. And if somebody's there, we can get there. So I can get there in volume. I can get there in customer service. I'd rather do customer service first and work my way toward volume. And that's just not me saying it. It's what we really want to do. And if I fall short and I end up second, I'm still pretty darn good. But I'm going to shoot for a number one. So we're gonna start with our market, then we're going to work on the state, then we're going to work on the country. But our CSI is definitely coming up. We're treating people better. I think when we have our new service department where it's by ourselves, because we share it with another manufacturer and another owner, and so there's a different culture. And I'm not knocking him; it's just different. There's a struggle to that, and what people see and what they feel. If they see their culture versus our culture, they're making a judgment on us collectively, and that is a struggle. And we have overcome a lot of it. But I think what that is a precursor to when we get on our own, we'll really be ready to be really exceptional at what we do and what we deliver to a customer and how they buy a car and how they're treated before, during, and after that process.
At Mazda of Columbia, South Carolina, in case you're watching or listening from another state.
Or MazdaofColumbia.com. I always do that at the end of the radio commercials.
You got to do it again at MazdaofColumbia.com, and then you do it again.
At MazdaofColumbia.com. That's MazdaofColumbia.com. How's that, Andy?
Nicely done. Greg Hood, owner of Mazda of Columbia, Rob Sanders of Fox Sports Radio, 1400 WCOS. My name is Andy. Thanks for enjoying another podcast. What's Good Under the Hood. See you next time.
Bye.